Plastic pollution may be defined as accumulation of objects or products made of synthetic polymer materials in the environment that have negative impact on wildlife habitats, humans, and ecosystem. Plastic pollution has emerged as one of the most pressing environmental issues. Did you know that Malaysia has a major problem with plastic waste? According to a 2019 study commissioned by the Worldwide Fund for Nature, Malaysia ranks second in Asia in terms of annual per capita plastic use. Malaysia ranks first in overall waste generation with 16.78 kg per person, ahead of much larger nations such as China, Indonesia, and Vietnam. Malaysia, with over 1,300 plastic manufacturers, is also one of the world's largest plastic production industries.
How did plastic pollution become a widespread problem? After World War II, the production and development of thousands of new plastic products accelerated, transforming the modern era to the point where life without plastic would be unrecognizable today. Rapid urbanization and population growth drive up demand for low-cost plastic. It is used in every other way possible because it is a cheap and long-lasting material. The convenience that plastic provide, on the other hand, have resulted in a throwaway culture that reveals the material's dark side. This has led to mismanagement of plastic disposal that contributes to higher rates of plastic pollution, especially in Malaysia. Furthermore, the limited recycling process and capabilities exacerbated these issues.
Plastic pollution mostly starts with our rubbish bins. When we dispose plastic such as bottles, bags or plates, they will end up in a landfill, get incinerated or recycled. Unfortunately, out of all the plastic produced worldwide until today, a mass of 79% plastic ended up in landfills. Since plastic is lightweight, it often is blown away from landfills to nearby drains, which then enters river and eventually the ocean. Rainwater also can carry plastic waste into drains and end up in streams and rivers. Based on the data from the United Nations, about 8 million tons of plastic ends up in ocean every single year. Plastic waste from landfills causes terrestrial pollution, which is estimated to be 4 to 23 times higher than marine plastic pollution.
Now, let's get to know how plastics break down. Most conventional plastics, such as polyethylene, polystyrene, and polyvinyl chloride, are non-biodegradable, which decomposers cannot break down. They can only break down through photodegradation, which requires sunlight. UV rays break the bonds holding the molecular chain of plastic together, which over time turns a big piece of plastic into numerous smaller pieces. But this process can take hundreds of years. For example, it takes about 450 years for a plastic bottle to break down. Microbeads, which are manufactured plastic particles that are less than 5 mm in diameter, do not degrade or dissolve in water. These particles persist in the environment and pose a threat to the marine life and human health.
As discussed previously, plastic break down into smaller particles that are known as microplastic, which are small plastic particles that are less than 0.2 inch in length. Another main source of microplastic is our clothing. Every time we wash our clothes, microfibers of our clothes are shed and are carried off to the wastewater treatment plants or is released to the open environment. Based on a study by Waterworld, each cycle of washing machine releases approximately 700,000 microscopic plastic fibers into the environment. As a result of the ongoing breakdown process of plastic and shedding of microplastic particles from clothing, the number of micro and nanoplastic particles is increasing exponentially.
Not only microplastic, plastic in general are extremely harmful to the environment. Here are some of the effects plastic causes. Plastic kills millions of animals every year. The deaths of these animals are mostly caused by entanglement or starvation. Plastic ingestion by animals can block digestive tract or puncture organs, resulting in death. Ingestion of plastic can also reduce the urge to eat, causing starvation. Plastic particles ingested by marine fauna then enter the human diet. According to a recent study published in the journal Environmental Science of Technology, human microplastic intake range from 39,000 to 52,000 particles per year. The toxic chemicals of plastic particles will affect human health. Bisphenol A or BPA, for example, has been linked to behavioral abnormalities and higher blood pressure. Besides that, plastic particles emit chemicals into the earth which can seep into groundwater supplies and compromise the quality of drinking water. Based on a study by Outmedia, 159 water samples were analysed, sourced from both tap water and bottled water in over 14 countries. And it was discovered that over 80% of all samples contain tiny plastic particles. In addition, the cost of cleaning affected area after exposure to plastic can take up to millions of dollars each year.
All these problems are generated by the actions of human beings, which is why we should take responsibility and be a smart consumer. Here are some small actions we can take to make a difference. Firstly, we should reduce plastic use and consumption, especially single-use plastics, which include plastic bags, water bottles, straws, cups, and any other plastic items that are discarded after single use. Instead, use eco-friendly alternatives like stainless steel straws, bamboo utensils, reusable cups, stainless steel lunch boxes, and many more. Secondly, plastic is resistant, thus always reuse plastic items as much as possible. Practice recycling. Separate recyclable plastic and dispose it in a recycle bin. The plastic waste will be collected and reprocessed into new products. This helps keep plastics out of the ocean and reduces the amount of new plastic in circulation. We can also participate in a beach or river cleanup. This directly helps fight ocean plastic pollution. The government, on the other hand, can introduce a ban on single-use plastic products exempting medical products and should promote the use of alternative products. Government can also impose taxes on plastic items and use economic incentives to persuade manufacturers to use alternatives to plastic. Manufacturers play an important role in curbing plastic pollution. Here are some changes they can make to reduce plastic pollution. They can produce plastic packaging that are 100% recyclable or reusable, which allows better recycling rates. They can also strive to produce plastic products from recycled materials. Their objective should be about making packaging simpler and to reduce the amount of unnecessary plastic.
Plastic contamination has many negative effects. They are not only limited to one part of the ecosystem, but different parts of the environment are affected. The severity of plastic pollution indicates the need to address this as both a social and an environmental issue. So, we should try our level best to reduce, reuse, and recycle plastic whenever possible. Although individual voluntary approach is important, plastic manufacturers and consumer brands who are currently flooding the world with plastic should take the utmost responsibility to ensure plastic no longer end up in the environment. Thus, the tide of plastic pollution must be stemmed at its source.